Hello,
Hello,
everyone.
everyone.
Welcome to
Welcome.
another episode of AWS Show and Tell. I'm Anil Narminti. I'm joining from Princeton, New Jersey today, along with Pete.
Hey,
Uh,
everybody. I'm Pete Aldefonso, and I'm joining from right outside of our HQ2 office in Washington, D.C.
Yay! So today we have a session on agent observability, right? So, uh, I mean, Pete. So what's the vibe out there, right, with the agents and observability?
I mean, a lot of people are building agents. They're learning the complexities of scaling them, but in the end, they still need that core observability data. What is actually going on with my agent? And
Right.
it's not as simple as some people are thinking it is, but hopefully today we'll ease a little bit of those concerns.
Yeah, and we're joined by our specialist team. Let's bring them on stage. So Rajesh and Madhu are also joining us.
Hey, Anil, I'm Pete. Thanks for hosting us. Really glad to be here with the team here.
Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a great time.
Hey, folks, yeah, Rajesh, Madhu, where are you joining from? And chat, let us know where you're connecting from today, right? So,
Yeah, sure. I'm calling in from New York. I'm a specialist solution architect aligned with AgentCore and AgentCore Observability. I've been in AWS for quite some time. I've been part of the launch of Bedrock, Q Business, Quick Suite, and now AgentCore. Really happy to be here to share about observability.
Hello, everyone. I'm Madhu Samhita Vangara, also a generative AI specialist solution architect associated with all things agentic AI, which is Trans and Agent Core. Really happy to be here and excited to dive in.
yay. So, yeah, awesome, right? So, again, we're going to go deep into some agent core observability concepts. Rajesh and Madhu are going to show us some live demos of how things work under the scenes, right? So, behind the scenes. So, um, Pete, so how do we get started here, right? So, do we chat about agentic applications? How, I mean, again, and why observability is important, right? So, maybe we should do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think let's start off with, what is Agent Core and why is it that people really should be saying, oh, I need to be using Agent Core in general? I mean, they say never try to speak on it if there's a more qualified person in the room. So let me turn that
Yeah.
over to the specialist to answer.
Hey, thank you, Pete and Anu. Yeah, this is most important question. I think I think that's running in many folks' mind. So today we got a packed agenda. We will definitely cover, what the agent core observability is all about and why you need it, and you'll see how to set it up. Then, if you're sticking around, we will go deep dive into the under the hood open telemetry mechanics and some of the advanced demos that Madhu will also share. So let's start with Pete's question. Like, what exactly is agent core observability and why you need this, right? So every system that we build needs some kind of an observability for your operations, right? So if you want to know what your agent is doing, what your application is doing, you want to know, you want to collect data and visualize it so that you can make intelligent actions on what your system is doing. And agent core observability has been purpose built for monitoring your agents to understand what it's going to do, what it's doing. And Agent Core Observability is part of a larger suite of services that we offer under the Amazon Bedrock Agent Core service, which covers various aspects of agent building and deploying and setting up it in production. So with observability service, what you get is an ability to visualize what is going on within your agents, what are the different actions and execution steps that the agent did. And this is kind of materialized as a trace, which is a telemetry concept. And you can see all the steps, all the different requests, the prompts, and the calls that the agent did, so that you can be confident about what your agent is doing behind the scenes and get the transparency. We also provide, as a value-added capabilities, ability to kind of zoom in into what different operations your agent is doing. Is there any latencies? Are there any errors? Can I quickly take a look at it and then go into that specific operation and action on it? So those kind of dashboards are also we are providing out of the box. That's what the Agent Core Observability service is all about within the AgentCore suite. Now, you may think, oh, I have my agent application running there and I have some telemetry hooked to it, but is that enough? It's not always enough in an operation system, right? When you're running an when you're operating an application at production scale, you want to know how your agent is performing and how the different hosts, the runtimes that you're running those agents on are also performing. You want to see the complete picture, and we have built-in dashboards, and we have capabilities where you can build your own dashboards and set alarms and whatnot based on that. This is kind of what we will be covering today on how to set it up, how to go and view it, and look into and how to explore this.
And also, quick question there, Rajesh. We also need like these observability to surface into other integrations, right? Because we want to be able to surface them on other dashboards. Everyone uses a different dashboard, name it different companies, right? So how do we is AgentCore observability integrated with tools like that, right? So let's talk about that for a second.
Fantastic, Kunil. Adil, this is a very good question because this is always in the mind of the many customers I have made out of investments, and I want to have my own personalizations and tools that I have been already invested on. So yes, the AgentCore observability, the overall system is basically built on open standards, OpenTelemetry framework. So that means that you have mobility, right? So whatever we collect, it's all standards based. So that means you can hook your own tools and your own applications as long as they understand the OpenTelemetry framework language, you are free to use. Plus, all the data storage that we use is based on CloudWatch services and XY. So what that means is that our customers, who have been used to using CloudWatch and other services, can integrate their tools, which are probably already integrated to these foundational services that AWS provides for observability. They can continue to leverage it while also entering the era of agentic world.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yep. Pete?
That's great to hear. Integration with CloudWatch is great. Now, if some of our customers, they're using Strands, but a lot of people are using some other frameworks. Does this also integrate if you're not using Strands?
Absolutely. We integrate with any application framework that is out there, whether it's agents or not, right? So again, that is we provide that through the mechanics of OpenTelemetry standards, right? Because we are standards based, almost everybody complies to those standards. We are able to do that as well. And we will deep dive into some of these things. We'll show you exactly how this configuration works and how you can basically, you're not limited to AWS infrastructure. You can have your agent anywhere and still use our observability tool because, again, it's standards based. So those are great questions, and we will show you how that works in a moment. I just want to kind of quickly touch on why observability matters in the world of agent implementations, right? So if you think about beyond the simple root cause analysis and all the operational needs and all of those things, if you really think about it, there is fundamentally something different about agent deployments. These are non-deterministic in nature. So if you look at a traditional application, you have an input, you have a processing, you have an output. As a developer, as a builder, we know exactly what it does. All we are interested in is if there is any error happening and things like that, right? But with agents, that's no longer the case. You are giving the agent some kind of a target, and you are letting the agent solve it in production. Scary, because it can call different APIs. It can do different data retrieval. It can do different reasoning paths, right? So you really do not know what it is that it's doing. So where is the transparency coming from? It comes from the data that you get from observability. So that's why it's super critical that you collect a strong set of observability data and keep it so that you can not only do root cause analysis and error and debugging and all of those things, but also it becomes your system of records for your future. But more importantly, if you are building agents, your agent quality is a competitive differentiator. This is key, right? So everybody has access to world-class large language models that are out there. But where you get the differentiation, it is the quality of your agent on achieving the specific task they're building it for. And this is where the data that you collect through the observability makes a big difference. And the platform that helps you evaluate your agents on the fly and understand what's going on is super critical. And that's where we from AgentCore Observability are putting a lot of focus on.
And you bring up a great point here, Rajesh, because when we deploy these agents in production, we need to collect the telemetry and understand, are we doing the right tool calling? Are we able to, how is the agent performing, right? So how many tokens are being used? So there is a lot of data that needs to be gathered, and that will only help in improving the performance of the system that we are developing, right? So I think this is very super critical.
Absolutely, Anil. You got that right. So now we know why it is, right? Why it is important. Let's take a look at, like, okay, I'm new to Agent Core Observability. How do I get started? What do I install? And how do I go and access? So I'll hand it over to Madhu to quickly show us this, and then we'll come back and then deep dive into OpenTelemetry concepts.
Thank you, Rajesh. So let's get into the different steps that we need to do to enable and leverage AgentCore Observability, specifically on AWS CloudWatch. To begin with, let's start through a simple developer journey. You could be a developer implementing an agent, testing out to see how it is performing, and have a simple code that is running locally within your agent. And how would you get started? To begin with, first, a single one-time setup that you need to do as a prerequisite to leverage AgentCore Observability on CloudWatch is to enable transaction search. So this is a one-time step you would need to do on your account, and of course have the permissions to access these different resources, creation of log streams, etc. With that, you have a local agent code. Here I have a simple agent that has access to a web search tool. I'm leveraging DDGS. It has access to bringing in real-time data to my agent. And keep in mind, as Anil earlier pointed out, that for this example, I'm developing an agent with open source trans agent framework, but the same agent code could be written in any of the popular open source frameworks. So define, and it can be calling any of the models, whether on Bedrock or off Bedrock. So simply define a local agent with access to web search capabilities and execute tools. So let's take a look at how a local agent can leverage AgentCore Observability. So after enabling transaction search, another aspect of the configuration steps is configuring certain environment variables so that you're able to send that telemetry data to AWS CloudWatch, which includes setting up OTel Python distro, which leverages AWS distribution, Python distribution for OpenTelemetry. We'll be diving into the details of this one a bit later, so I'll keep that part. Another aspect is specifying the log groups where you want to send this telemetry to, and the log streams. So you can define this on your own, and at the same time, how you would like to identify this agent is where you will specify your specific agent name that you're developing locally. This additional step is something that you would need to do not just for your agent, which is running locally, but also for agents running on your custom hosting infrastructure, which could include EKS, ECS, etc. So after loading this environment variable within your environment, what you would need to do as a third step after you have defined your final agent logic, as here that we have defined, is including OpenTelemetry instrument command in front of your Python execution. And we will be diving deeper into the concepts of OpenTelemetry, which includes passing session IDs, etc. So this is the 4 different steps that you would need to do to take a local agent or a custom hosted agent and leverage and visualize the end traces on AgentCore Observability dashboard. Well,
so what you're really doing here is really installing the open source OpenTelemetry auto instrumentation tool and configuring all the different environment variables that it needs. Is that what we are doing in a nutshell?
Absolutely. So, along with enabling transaction search, setting your environment variable, and ensuring your framework emits OpenTelemetry traces, you also include the AWS OpenTelemetry distribution package within your execution environment to simply auto-instrument your traces onto CloudWatch.
And a link to the sample code we are discussing is in the chat, so you can look at that. And it's also linked to the description of the video as well.
Awesome. So we saw how to take a local agent and leverage AgentCore Observability dashboard. Now, talking about different hosting environments, there is also something which is AgentCore Runtime. And let's take a quick look at how the setup varies and how AgentCore Runtime makes it very seamless to leverage AgentCore Observability. So if you have the same code, a local code running locally, to host that code onto runtime, you simply have to add 4 additional lines. If you are leveraging Bedrock AgentCore SDK, you simply have to define the app. Before your invocation, wherever that is, use the decorator of app.entryPoint and app.run, and your local agent code is transformed to be ready to be hosted on runtime. Leveraging the Bedrock AgentCore Starter Toolkit, you can also dockerize this agent code, and that's it. All you need to do to host your agent on runtime with observability is enable transaction search, ensure your framework emits OpenTelemetry. In the case of strands, we have a strands agents OTel package, include AWS OpenTelemetry in there. And before your invocation, include OpenTelemetry Python, OpenTelemetry instrument command. So you can see how runtime sort of makes it very easy. You don't have to do that additional environment variable configuration. And once you host this, configure and launch this agent onto runtime, you will be able to see the traces onto AgentCore Observability dashboard. I'll just take a quick few minutes. Now that we have understood the setup of agent observability, I'd like to also highlight another concept, Rajesh, which you were previously talking about, is understanding the service health of this is to enable vended logs and tracing per your agent core resources. That could be runtime, agent core gateway, memory, so forth and so on. So to do that, you'll go to the AgentCore console, and here you have an observability section where you can set up your log delivery for application logs as CloudWatch, and also enable tracing per runtime resource. So this would be information that is emitted by runtime, which will also be available on your CloudWatch dashboard.
And
Hey,
while Madhu is showing these from the console, these are also available from CloudFormation and CDK as well, right? So you can set it up as part of infrastructure as code as well.
Yeah, so we could share additional documentation on how you could do that to get started.
Yes. So Madhu, while you're in the screen, one quick clarification. So instrumenting, like you just enable the trace for the runtime. Is this same as instrumenting your application that is running in the runtime?
That's a great question. So to clarify that, understanding the difference between framework emitted OpenTelemetry and runtime emitted service is the key difference. Everything that your agent is doing is emitted by the framework and the different tools that your agent has access to. And that is what we see when we see the different spans of the agent execution. Enabling vended logs and tracing on runtime shows us information associated with invoke runtime operation, which includes requests and a variety of other aspects of runtime service health metrics, which we can dive deep in a bit in the following demo. So
fair to say that some of this is more agent-based application kind of logging versus the runtime
specific metrics and logging.
That makes sense. Okay.
Absolutely. So to give a little more on that, it doesn't just stop with runtime. It also, the same concept of service health, that is service emitted telemetry, also extends to your memory resources, where you'll be able to see your different memory related metrics and logs and spans when you do the same, enabling vendor logs and tracing for built-in tools. For gateways, you get a complete overview of visibility across a custom time frame, across all your resources, across AgentCore services. So this is
And so you
truly.
don't have to use these like Gateway or one of these tools, but if you choose to use it, you do have this unified telemetry and data. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. And that's the best part about AgentCore as a platform, is that you can use these independently as well. If your agent running locally only leverages AgentCore memory, you will still be able to monitor your AgentCore memory related resources associated with that agent. And similarly, you're able to monitor your agents that are developed using open source framework, which emit OpenTelemetry on or off runtime. So here you can see some of my agents are hosted on AgentCore runtime, while some of them are simply running locally or on EKS or any local hosting infrastructure as well. And just a little more on that is, apart from all the capabilities, you also have visibility into all the sessions and all the traces associated with these agents and traces as well in a single dashboard. So you truly come in and get everything in one unified place to monitor every aspect of your agents.
And can you give me an overview real quick? What is a trace in this particular terminology?
That's a great question. So I'll post to Rajesh to take it over and dive into OpenTelemetry, traces, sessions, and a lot more.
Hey, thank you, Madhu. That was a real good overview. So before we jump into this, who are the personas that you think will be using these these dashboards? What are the personas you think are involved here?
It could be developers.
Mostly the builder personas are around, right? So they're all looking at how to get to know what is happening under the hood. Right?
But also, I imagine the IT leaders, they want to brag about, oh, look how many of my agents are running.
Yeah.
What about SRE teams, Rajesh, and subject matter experts looking at the data of what your agent is doing in certain domains?
Sure. Yeah. There could be data scientists looking at the traces to see how well the agent is performing, and we do have evaluations which we can show later. There could be support engineers looking at the data to see if there are any errors going on. So there is a whole lot of personas that this is designed for as the product, as the company or enterprise scales their production capability. Now, this is great overview. Now we will roll our sleeves and get a little bit into the details of how exactly this whole plumbing works, because that helps you understand what's going on behind the scenes. So let's jump into that part of it, right? So observability, by now, it will be clear that it's not just one thing. It's not just logs, traces, or metrics. It's a combination of all these three things that gives a powerful set of data, rich data, all correlated in a single context. So you get to understand what's going on with the agents. The logs tell you what happened. The traces tell you how it happened, and the metrics tell you how much or how well it happened. So that's the observability pillars. So within the AgentCore observability concepts that Madhu was just showing us some sessions and some traces, and Pete, you just asked the right question: what exactly all this means, and why do I bother about it? So these comes from our OpenTelemetry concepts. So when you are executing any application, or in this case, an agent, you make a request to the agent, and then the agent does a sequence of steps, and it may also call different tools and whatnot. Each of those operation is recorded by what is called a span, right? So OpenTelemetry would record these operations. The agent would record these operations into what is called a span, which is a JSON object, and send it to an observability platform like us. So that is a span as a building block. Now, when you talk about the operations that happened within a request and response, there are multiple operations that happened. So those sequenced together or put together or chained together is one trace. So essentially, these span objects that we send out, and we will see later on, we can show you how this looks like in the CloudWatch, will have the same trace ID, and that's how we know that it's just as simple as just having an ID that is used. Now, when you are talking about application, a user comes in, they may do many request and response and request and response. Let's say a chat agent, and then you just asking the chat agent something, it responds with something, and then so there's a bunch of request response happening within a specific session, and without there is no imagination needed here. So we just call that a session ID. So multiple request response is a session, and that's connected together by having a single session ID. So that's the OpenTelemetry concepts that kind of binds these different operations together to build that picture of what happened behind the scenes. Now, when we saw the setup, Madhu was showing us there was a tool called ADOT that you installed, which stands for AWS distribution for OpenTelemetry. And you added a kind of a wrapper called OpenTelemetry instrumentation. What exactly it did? Why did we do that? So the whole idea of having that tool deployed along with your application and wrapping it is really making it easy to capture what your agent is doing under the hood, all part of a single application process. So imagine your application code. This is the agent code that you wrote here, which is basically saying agent, you're initializing an agent, calling an LLM call, and then calling some kind of a knowledge-based search, and then doing some tool execution. This is your code. You have not done anything to say log these messages or anything like that, right? But somehow magically this information has to be captured. What happens behind the scenes is when you are installing your framework, these frameworks often also include an OpenTelemetry related library. So Madhu showed something called Strands OTel that you installed along with your Strands agent. That is for the Strands. If you're using LangGraph or other tools, you could be installing Langsmith or OpenInference or one of those libraries. What are these libraries? Are essentially extension of the agent framework to provide hooks into these calls so that some kind of telemetry is generated. Now, the auto instrumentation library that we added includes additional hooks for system calls and memory calls and memory operations and many other things that are regular Python code or any HTTP request that would be happening. So all of this information, these hooks, together with the extended LLM OTel libraries, just keep generating, right? And behind the scenes, there is an OTel SDK. This is all open source based. That is provided by OpenTelemetry framework called the OpenTelemetry instrumentation that collects all this data and basically coalesces that into trace and metric and logs, right? Now, when you're using AgentCore Observability, we are storing all this data in CloudWatch. So CloudWatch uses the metrics, CloudWatch metrics for CloudWatch to storing the metrics, and logs for log groups. And then there is a separate special log group called AWS spans where it stores all the telemetry spans, right? Now, you don't want to be that person trying to figure this out, how to write into all of this. So we provide within the ADOT an abstraction over whatever the basic OpenTelemetry system provides that basically takes this information and automatically writes it to these systems. So you do not have to do any configuration from your perspective other than telling where your which account you're using for AgentCore Observability. That's pretty much what it is. Suppose if you're not using our platform, you can, all of this still applies. The standard OTel SDK can generate these logs and send it to whatever OpenTelemetry endpoint that other providers might provide, and then it may just be automatically forwarded. So you're essentially using OpenTelemetry behind the scenes. It's not, We are not building anything custom for you. So this is all handled in an open standards-based way.
Now, Rajesh, real quick, we had a
Yes.
question come in on LinkedIn asking us if I was to enable this, will it impact the latency that I'm seeing from the actual the call and response, those kinds of activities? Thanks, Gaurav, for the question.
That's a great question, actually. So there is a lot of telemetry data that is generated. So what happens is, if you are pushing all this data at a high frequency, you can. So these telemetry systems, usually the OpenTelemetry, what it does is it basically creates a block before it flushes it out to the end observability backends, right? You can tune to say, I want it to be flushed every second or less than that, whatever that is comfortable for you. But you have to keep in mind, this is also very intensive. So if you want to, this is a very process, high intensive, it takes a little bit of your process resource. So you have to be careful, and you have to do the balancing on your specific applications. Typically, the default is around, I believe it's like 2 seconds or something like that. Every 2 seconds, it just flushes. So that'll be how frequently this data goes. So it's a balance between what your system needs are, your agent resource needs, and versus your observability needs. But we would, if you have the luxury to have a little bit delayed response, I would increase the buffer size so that it is more efficient in terms of using your bandwidth and so on.
Yeah, and we also have another question coming in the chat. This question is about guardrails, right? So about the logs, right? Because agents are now doing a lot of these operations. There is like secure material probably in the agents. So how do we, what is available so that way the privacy, private info is not, in these observability logs.
Oh yeah, we will share some samples. I think Madhu is so excited, will be excited to show you actually how you can set it up. So the guardrails can be set up at 2 levels. One is at the agent level itself. So when it gets a request and when it's making a request. Madhu, you want to talk about a little bit about that?
Absolutely. If I could just share my screen, I think we can quickly answer that, right? That's the power of connecting AgentCore CloudWatch, is that because AgentCore Observability sits on top of CloudWatch data, you can leverage a variety of CloudWatch capabilities. For example, to answer your question, setting up data protection policies to handle PII-related data per log group policies so that any information coming can be redacted or masked, and highly recommend to check out CloudWatch PII masking strategies that are available. So you could do this per log group level, and even if you're including some custom logging within your agent application code, you'll be able to handle that with this capability on CloudWatch. Yeah.
I keep trying to stress the customers is like, we have been doing these kinds of things for a while. When it comes to hosting agents, it's very similar to how you host things like Lambda. We've been dealing with how do you deal with PII and log groups for a decade. And so we have a bunch of tools that are already built in, that are standard for your industry, that you can say to your security or your privacy group, it's exactly how we've been doing it all along. We're going to enable these kinds of protections. And so you can move forward with confidence, not having to reinvent something on a different platform.
Absolutely. And you could quickly look at how that reflects even on AgentCore observability data. So let me just quickly show that to you on how that would look like at the trace level. Yeah. So here's a quick demo to see that kind of logging and masking that you set up. And also you could leverage Bedrock AgentCore Bedrock guardrails to further initiate more defense in-depth strategies.
So essentially, the secure content is still going to be secure. It's not going to be leaking in the logs, right? So as long as you can tune that.
Absolutely. Let's go back to understanding OTel in depth.
Yeah, thanks for showing that, Madhu. So these are some of the capabilities, as Pete also pointed out, that's already there. Because we are building on proven technology, you get all of that out of the box. So let's just go into a little bit of how exactly this telemetry. Okay, you install the auto instrumenter and you configure the ADOT to send it to CloudWatch. All that is good. So what is happening behind the scenes? How does OpenTelemetry actually work? So that is where this whole, the ability to transfer the context becomes a key that OpenTelemetry frameworks provide. So when you're building an agent, your agent could be the front end, and it could be behind the scenes calling different MCP servers and tools and whatnot, right? And it may call a gateway, it may call a memory, and within the gateway, it may call different tools and they do certain actions on behalf of you. So each of these systems are independent from each other. It's not one single system, right? So the OpenTelemetry mechanism, what it does is when the first producer or the caller or the originator it generates an OpenTelemetry token. It includes something called a trace ID that it's generated. And what it does is whenever it calls any child application, could be a complete different process running in a completely different place, right? It may be even outside AWS, right? So it basically sends that trace ID as a header in an HTTP request behind the scenes, completely transparent to you. You have to do is just enable OpenTelemetry in your application, install the framework. That's it. It basically takes care of all of this by hooking into your HTTP request and adding this trace ID to that header. So any receiving system that is also OpenTelemetry compatible will know how to read this and include the same trace ID whenever it is generating a telemetry, basically a span, right? And it will include the same trace ID. As long as all these spans are going to the same system, in this case, AgentCore Observability powered by CloudWatch, you will be able to pull together all these spans and then build a meaningful kind of a view of like an end-to-end view of all the different operations happened, along with the timelines and what are the child operations and whatnot, by just using this mechanism that OpenTelemetry gives us out of the box. So we're not making anything proprietary here. And one interesting concept that the OpenTelemetry also does is it has a concept of what is called a baggage. And within the baggage, you can include your own attributes that matters so that you can establish some kind of a context across your applications stack. Right, so this could be business unit ID or some tenant ID or something like that for your billing purpose, or it could be some kind of conversation ID for your for tracking reasons, whatnot. You can include that, and the OpenTelemetry includes that baggage also as part of that header request and sends it across. And if you think that this is only limited to HTTP, no, it has a very broad set of support for different types of integrations. So your applications could be interacting with each other using HTTP requests, or it could be using a gRPC request, or it could be even using Kafka queues, or even a database calls. All of these, the OpenTelemetry automatically instruments and adds these headers and metadata so that each of these systems can independently generate spans to build that picture for you. And that's what we are leveraging behind the scenes, by the way. Now, by now, you kind of understood that you start your agent development with some kind of an agent framework. That could be Strands, it could be LangGraph, it could be Crew AI. And each of these frameworks comes with an added OTel related library that they include it. In case of Strands, it's called Strands OTel. In case of LangGraph, it could be Langsmith or Open Inference. It depends on which library you choose. So that means there are different telemetry libraries that is kind of trying to interpret what your LLM is doing or agent is doing and producing some very specific format that is unique to those libraries and producing those telemetry. So even though we are using standards to collect and organize the telemetry data, the actual content might be slightly different. So this is where AgentCore Observability helps you a little bit more. So you do not end up doing all the translations and trying to decide which library to use and all of that. We provide broad set of support for the most popular libraries out of the box. So independent of which library you use, you will be able to see the traces in the system, in our agent core observability, and we do the interpretation and all the mapping of different attribute fields and whatnot of the context of the data, so that you do not do the heavy lifting. So sometimes what happens, you might choose some library, and then your platform may not be able to understand it, so you are on the hook to do the translation. So we basically save that for you. We don't want you to be spending time on that. I will. So this kind of so you got the picture, you got the framework that you selected, and you installed ADOT on that. And the framework came with some kind of an extension to produce the telemetry.
Mhm.
So with the ADOT, the data gets straight into agent core observability. You don't have to do anything else, right? So that's pretty much what a typical system will do. Now you may ask, hey, if I don't want to get it into ADOT, what do I do? I don't want agent core observability. I'm using some other service. Then you can just not use ADOT, or use ADOT but send the forward the telemetry to your third-party observability platform, right? Either works. Uh, but one of the things that we do extra is, and Madhu showed this, right? We go to the specific services that is fully managed by us. You can go and enable the trace and the logs from there as well. So this is independent of what your agent framework is doing, agent is doing, and these additionally sends metrics which are very, very important for you to be able to actually understand what's going on in your production environments,
And
right?
to
So
add
easier
to
memory billing. Yeah.
Yeah, and to add to the previous question of analyzing your latency, I think it extends beyond just the framework. Latency could be from runtime, gateway,
Mhm.
memory. So having that holistic picture of putting the metrics from across everything together is very important.
Excellent point.
That's a great point.
And the last thing is, this data that you collect, it not only gives you a picture, it can power other important tools like evaluations, which is critical for you to understand how your agent is performing. Because when your agent is running, thousands of instances of your agent is running in a production scale, you want to be having a system that is continuously looking for how your agent is performing, and we have a closer integration with agent core evaluations that is based on the data that we collect, that you can leverage to monitor your agent on an automated fashion.
And since you brought up agent core evaluation, we have the agent core evaluation session coming up next week. So tune in again. It's going to give you a deep dive on how you can evaluate your agents on a number of criteria categories and improve your AI applications. Right. So yeah.
Hey, that'll be great session to attend. So far we saw how exactly the open telemetry plays a role here, and how we are basically building everything based on open standards, so you are not being locked into anything. um, so now we will see some very advanced demos, like if I have multiple agents, how does it work, and what exactly the data gets stored. So on to Madhu, please show us how this all comes together.
Absolutely. Speaking about OpenTelemetry, I think very key aspect of OpenTelemetry is distributed tracing. And to extend that concept, we have developed a demo which leverages multi-agent frameworks. In here, we are leveraging Strands Agents framework and LangGraph, which is a popular open source framework. And let's understand how, when these different multi-agents hosted across different runtime environments. Here, we're going to be hosting these hierarchical multi-agent pattern across 3 different runtimes and see how we can leverage OpenTelemetry's distributed tracing to connect all of these aspects together.
So
So
Madhu, just a quick pause there is you have this code from the multi-agent observability notebook. So can you show us where in the sample code you picked this up from?
If you go to Bedrock AgentCore samples, we have
Yeah,
tutorials.
right. Okay, so I think on the left side you see that menu bar. So maybe if you can scroll through that, that's yeah.
Yeah, so we have Bedrock AgentCore samples, out of which we have 01 tutorials folder. This current notebook is within the AgentCore observability tutorials within agent hosted on runtime folder.
Thank
So
you so much. Yeah, I just
yeah.
wanted to make sure that folks who are following this can
Um,
browse through. Yep.
Sure. So for the purpose of the demo, we've kept the agent logic simple. So this means that different teams can be building out complex agent and hosting them in their own custom infrastructure. That means that this LangGraph agent could be hosted on EKS across different hosting infrastructures as well. The key concept being that each framework or aspect. Now we're talking about the fact all we are indexing on agents alone. That means that with OpenTelemetry, these could be even MCP servers emitting OpenTelemetry traces, etc. So once you ensure the components emit OpenTelemetry traces in my demo, which is strands and LangGraph, we also saw how to enable AgentCore observability in the previous demo. So leveraging the similar steps, I've hosted 3 separate runtimes, and how we really connect these different components together is by leveraging OpenTelemetry's baggage, which is the reason we are able to propagate our traces across. So this is how within my orchestrator agent developed in Strands agent framework, wherever we are invoking the orchestrator agent, simply by setting the baggage, we are able to leverage distributed tracing capabilities of OpenTelemetry and see how a single invocation connects all the different trace IDs together. And I'm also not just using runtime agents. I'm currently storing my multi-agent security in SSM as an SSM parameter for the subagents to subagent ARNs and etc. to be stored. So let's take a look at how all of this gets connected on AgentCore observability dashboard. So another key aspect, as Rajesh was talking about earlier, is understanding not just the agent-related metrics, but also runtime-related metrics, which is very key in understanding performance and monitoring it across. So you can see how for agents that are hosted on runtime, we provide all of those details. Here I've hosted 3 separate agent runtimes, so you could filter this onto custom dashboard and monitor all of this information, which leverage different frameworks across in a single pane of glass. So we saw
Hey,
how we
Madhu,
can monitor.
a quick question. So if you scroll up, so there are 2 different types of sessions. Can you quickly talk about what those 2 numbers are?
Sorry,
Like in the overview you just showed, so there is a session count up there. There is a sessions 13, and then if you open the runtime metrics, there is another set of sessions ID there. So can you talk about what these 2 are?
Absolutely. So when it comes to runtime handles session IDs in a different fashion. These are, as if you're familiar with AgentCore Runtime, implements session isolation using micro VMs. So this information is associated with AgentCore Runtime related session IDs. And this information is how you manage your OpenTelemetry session across your agent application. So that's a key differentiation to note. Following our demo where we are developing a multi-agent, we saw how to monitor these agents across your different agents, but you can also double click and dive into a single agent. So here you can see, as Rajesh pointed out, you can quickly pinpoint what's going on and understand your average span latency across your different capabilities within your agent. Here I can see a variety of spans that are invoked And this easily helps us also sort of filter those traces and dive into something specific that you're looking into. So you have a variety of filters to experiment at the trace level and also at within a trace. So going into our orchestrator strands agent, which passes the baggage using OpenTelemetry baggage. Here you can see how across the trajectory, you're also able to connect the runtime vended spans, which is runtime invoke that we enable using enabling vended logs and tracing at runtime, and also understanding framework related OpenTelemetry traces. In the case of strands takes an agentic loop with a model driven approach. So this is how a strands agent framework tracing looks like. And you can see how one of the sub agent that we called, which sits in a completely different runtime, invokes a LangGraph agent, and this is how the LangGraph traces and spans look like.
So this is for a single trace, we're seeing the flow of
all of the different agents across different runtime environments, all connected in a single trace ID.
And this really, I feel like this is an important topic for customers that are worried about the quote unquote black box concerns of, I don't know what's going on, I don't know where it's doing it. Like if you ever need to explain the full extent of what happens, or you want to walk a stakeholder, a business user through something, instead of just showing them a bunch of these like raw logs, you can actually show them the flow of each step to actually give them the confidence of understanding what's going on at each step.
And
absolutely.
It does,
and
right, because
also
of these non-deterministic systems to know what's happening right under the hood.
absolutely. So along with the trajectory view, we also have a tree view, which also stitches the latency aspect together. And another key aspect is understanding how it is able to stitch the logs and the spans and the metrics together all in a single place. So you're also able to, for example, see span level metrics, trace level metrics, and session level metrics in the sessions view as well. So here you can see that the orchestrator agent had just 15 spans associated with it execution. So let's take a look at that LangGraph agent that we developed earlier and search with the same trace ID and see how the same trace ID connects the LangGraph agent and the orchestrator agent within the same flow. And you can see how the LangGraph ID, the LangGraph agent had 13 different invocations compared, 13 different spans compared to that. So you're able to have this level of comparisons and not just connecting agents. These same concepts applies to connecting the different aspects of AgentCore services as well. So, talking double diving on not just agents, but understanding how when you leverage, let us say, an agent that leverages AgentCore memory, you have a dedicated dashboard that shows you the metrics of operations associated with your short-term and long-term memory capabilities and get some charts associated with invocation, retrieving records, or things like that. But when a memory agent is associated with a runtime agent, you'll be able to see how you can leverage how the traces are connected with the memory and runtime traces together like this. So here you can see you had a runtime invocation that leveraged AgentCore memory create event operation, and see how all of this is stitched together. So
real quick, if I can see now how I can see this across a single invocation and all of the different spans components. But if I have a user that comes along and says, it seems like all of the agents are running slow today, or gives me some kind of feedback like that happens a lot. Is there a way to see what's causing the most amount of latency in an average run?
So there are different aspects of measuring latency, right? One is drilling down into metrics associated with a runtime, analyzing runtime agent latency, as well as analyzing average span latency associated with all the capabilities. But double diving on that, understanding latency is leveraging AWS CloudWatch metrics, right? So This means that you're able to create those custom dashboards with all the information that is available, that is emitted, not just by your agents, but also by your framework together per different combinations. As you can see, we have a variety of metrics associated. So you could group this by certain single agent that you're doing, or analyze the different metrics like throttling, latency, errors, input output tokens that you want to leverage, etc. Or even by even if you're trying to analyze some agent core related operations. So think about the variety of combinations you could leverage this data. And to give a quick overview on what are the kind of dashboards you can develop with that is, as you rightly pointed out, like latency. So you can build these custom latencies. For example, here is a quick dashboard on how I'm comparing my latency across my three different agents, that is my two sub agents, and see that granular visibility into it, and also input output tokens. And with CloudWatch, connecting this to CloudWatch gives you the ability to not just visualize metrics, but also analyze log groups. That means, as Rajesh previously pointed out, leveraging OpenTelemetry means that you can pass your custom attributes within your agents, and custom attributes leveraging OpenTelemetry baggage, which looks like this.
Hmm.
So you can create those custom spans and attributes as well for a simple web search agent. I'd like to see how different web search providers are performing for the same query, or some other business specific attributes that you would like to monitor. So by passing these open telemetry attributes and baggages, you will also be able to query them across your log groups, and also set alarms, CloudWatch alarms associated with performance. For example, if your particular memory resource is taking too much time, you could set up a CloudWatch alarm, or when there is a high token usage from a particular agent ARN, you could set up a CloudWatch alarm. And this is just the beginning of leveraging all of this information to create actionable dashboards for you to see from.
Super convenient. That's being able to see all that in one place, particularly in CloudWatch, would be helpful.
And that's exactly what we go back to the logs to see, hey, what's the one that's what's causing the slowness, or something's happening. And
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
And it goes without saying, right? Like there are multiple paths you can do. Like
do.
you get the full access to the data, not only the dashboards. So the dashboards gives you an overview. You can go into the details view and then see a timeline to see specific delay points, if that is what you're looking for. Or you can actually go and use the metrics to establish a pattern. What is this, a systemic pattern, or is this something specific one point in time? So that's a powerful set of capabilities that we're providing here.
That's interesting. Very
Or,
cool.
or simply query using log insights to see if you're looking for something specific information within your spans, which are written to AWS spans log group, or across your different runtime log groups as well, or something that you're looking for specifically within gateway. So understand how the different logs, metrics, and traces work together. But just to conclude on just a teaser to what's very important to stitch together along with observability is understanding how observability's data sits right next to evaluations to understand your information all in one place. So leveraging AgentCore evaluations on your agents, you're also able to see your traces, sessions, observability data, and evaluation data all in a single place. So you get dedicated dashboards about your evaluation metrics, which could be built in or custom, and understand how an agent is doing, what are the evaluation performances, also together with the observability trace.
Yeah, that's a great you know wrap to what we are showing today. So I mean, you took us through the whole journey of how the agents are can be evaluated against all these criteria, right? So there's a lot that you showed us today, Madhu and Rajesh. So uh, folks. Any closing comments there from you?
So I mean, in a nutshell, the data that you collect makes or breaks, right? Your agent quality. So we provide the most comprehensive set of tools that are built on production ready capabilities that have been there for quite some time. We really invite folks to explore this. We have the documentations, the links were shared. These are the documentations and the code samples are really there to start building and exploring what you can do with this. And we try to be as open as possible using open standards like OpenTelemetry to build this whole system and make it available for you across all systems. But appreciate hosting us and thank you for spending the time with us this evening today.
Absolutely. And as a closing comment, I'd also like to add that we have AgentCore samples that are associated with AgentCore observability. Please do check them out. And also check out how you can leverage AgentCore observability for the rest of the AgentCore services as well.
Excellent. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll come back next week for more on deep dive on AgentCore evaluations. That's it from our side. See you all.
Thank you, everyone.